think we've got a lot to talk about after watching that. It's a depiction of a really gruesome moment, some larger-than-life characters, and I can't be the only one in the room who saw some really harrowing, kind of resonant things with what's happening in the country and what's in the news today.
You know, I've just been hearing about the assassination my whole life, and really, through osmosis, I think I came into this project originally believing that Ray was innocent, just because I'd heard the conspiracies enough times. He was a patsy, he was framed. It must be true, right? I just sort of, you hear enough, the same thing repeated enough times and you begin to believe it.
It's interesting that you're talking about the struggle with Ray as a character, because one of the hardest things for us to do making the film was to concentrate and focus on him so that he was compelling and, we hope, sort of mesmerizing, but not enough so that you were rooting for the guy, right, or that you were somehow sympathetic for him. And it was like a house of cards. Every time you spent a little bit too much time in one scene on Ray or a little bit too much time on King, everything sort of started to fall apart, especially if it was at the beginning of the film where you were trying to set up this tension between these two paths that were going to sort of meet in this sort of fatefully entwined way.
I know that one of the main reasons why the conspiracy theories continue to exist is that members of King's own family have said that they don't think Ray was responsible.
We didn't really feel that the conspiracy story was something we could grapple with in the film. I mean, we spent 90 minutes basically articulating all the ways in which we felt James Earl Ray did this. And at the 85th minute to suddenly say, oh, well, by the way, there's a whole other story, which would take another 90 minutes just to get to the bottom of, right, was something that narratively we couldn't do. And I find those kind of stories utterly sort of circular and open-ended and about as interesting as a long conversation about UFOs.
And I think it's a measure of his cunning, because I think the thing about Ray, people think, well, Ray was stupid. Well, this is a guy that, you know, he escaped from 2 maximum security prisons. What's not in the film is that a few years later he escaped again from a Tennessee prison and is on the lam for about 3 days until he's caught by bloodhounds. But he escaped from 2 maximum security prisons, and you know, he had this cunning. He had this sort of, well, his own attorney said he was smart like a rat. And I think it's kind of a final measure of his cunning, that he was able to convince certain members of the inner circle and the King family that not only was he innocent, but that he was, you know, this patsy that had been framed as part of this massive shadowy conspiracy that involved literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people who, you know, have not said it or breathed a word for 42 years.
How much of what we're hearing in the news today is reminding you of what was going on in 1967, 1968?
Well, you know, obviously I wish it wasn't as topical a film as it is. And I think our original conception was to try and use these 2 lives and their kind of fateful collision as a lens to look at America in that year, America sort of coming apart at the seams. And I mean, it's just spooky and weird right now. I mean, I shot those interviews. Benjamin Hooks has recently passed away, and Andy Young. I mean, I shot those interviews 6 weeks before the presidential election. And you could just see in their eyes the sort of intense pride and excitement that they felt about Obama.
History doesn't repeat itself. I mean, I guess it was Twain who said it doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes. And, you know, there are eerie rhymes. There are eerie, you know, all the chatter and the internet kind of echo chamber that's going on, and all these people getting riled up, left-wingers and right-wingers, really. Everybody's shouting at everybody, and there's no civil dialogue going on, and these are really scary times. So I hope we'll just sort of take a deep breath as a nation and kind of figure this thing out, because we do not want a repeat of the spring of 1968.